How's it going, folks? So I'm going to be talking about the brand new album from the band Averlanche. The name of this album is Arctic Atlas, and this album comes out this Friday, May 12th. But y'all know it. Before I get into that nitty gritty, let's check out the cover. So, boom, there it is. Take a look at that. I dig it. I dig it. It's a very eye-catching cover, particularly because of the colors involved in the moth, or I think it's a moth. I don't think it's a butterfly, so I'm gonna go with a moth. Right there, center stage with the nice colors in the wings, and it looks like it's the world. It's like the countries, in the wings, and it's really really cool. And I love the way that the band name is stylized at the top, and the album title Arctic Atlas, and all around this moth you have ice cold, frozen, like ice. It fits the title of the album. Then you got this moth where right in the center there's like a really pretty blue. And then in the wings, again, it's like you have the oceans and the continents. I said countries before, but continents. And it just looks really, really nice. Really draws the eye in. So from an aesthetic perspective, I dig it. If you're flipping through albums, I feel like it really catches the eye. So it does a really great job of getting your attention. Now, does it properly convey the style of music that you're going to get on the album? It it's a little generic as far as that goes, but it's hard to say because this can always be difficult for me after I've already listened to the album to try to determine if the cover properly represents the sound on the album. So trying to detach myself from already knowing that sound, it's tough, but I think it does a pretty good job. I really do. I think it. I think you kind of get the idea. It's a symphonic metal, but it could also it's in that ballpark because even if you don't think it's necessarily symphonic metal, you'll think it's some kind of symphonic rock or Evanescence style kind of album. You're not going to get death metal out of this, or metalcore or anything like that. So I do think it does a pretty good job. If you were to just buy it without knowing what the band or what it sounds like, you're not going to be surprised when you pop it in the CD player or record player and hear it. So I do think it does a pretty good job of conveying the style of the sound on the album. But I do really, really like it aesthetically. So yeah, again, it catches the eye, it grabs your attention, and it makes you want to know, what's this? What is this all about? So I dig it. I dig it. I like the cover. But anywho, let's talk about the album itself now. This bad boy's got 11 tracks on there and comes in at about, I don't know actually what this comes in at. Let me see if this tells me here. No, it doesn't. So, yeah, forgive me, folks. Normally I like to tell you how long an album is, but yeah, this one, I don't see where it tells me. So that's an error on my part. I should have looked closer ahead of time. But I would have to say, knowing the album, about 50 minutes. That's what it feels like to me listening to it. 45 to 50 minutes. So it's a good length. That's what I can tell you. It feels natural, doesn't feel bloated, and it doesn't feel too short. It feels just right. Every song feels like it belongs, and nothing, no time feels wasted. At no point in the album does it feel like it drags on or anything like that. So it's a good length. And if I had to say, again, 45 to 50 minutes is what I would say. But there are 11 tracks on here. And what you're going to get is symphonic metal. Symphonic metal through and through. And what I really liked about this is it's pure symphonic metal, kind of like what I remember from the 2000s of symphonic metal. there's a lot of new influences with symphonic metal, whether it be modern metal style and extreme symphonic metal, or an epic symphonic metal, or this has the hallmarks of a classic symphonic metal album through and through, and that feels fresh to me because you don't get that style, like symphonic metal at its core. You don't get that as often anymore. So I really like the approach, and I really like the sound, and it brought me back. It brought me back to the days where I listened to a lot of symphonic metal back in the 2000s. And like I said, this really doesn't beat around the bush. Yes, there's little extra influences here and there, but it really is a symphonic metal album through and through, with a focus on melody and the music. It really really captures that vibe, that energy, that feeling of symphonic metal, where you get strong guitar work in there. Sometimes you get some heavy riffs, sometimes it's more melancholic, if you will. But the symphonic elements are utilized very, very well to just add that extra flavor to the songs, to add that extra little personality to the songs, and really make them feel well rounded and full. The production and the mixing is all impeccable. You can hear everything very, very clear, very, very well, and the production is solid. There's no fuzziness or anything. It's really, really high quality sound, which is important when you have multiple things going on, guitars, drums, bass, plus the symphonic elements, whether it's through keyboard or some orchestral piano, what have you. It all sounds nice and crisp, crystal clear. So that's a big thing right off the bat. And the focus, it really is driven, I would say, through the melodies, through the vocal melodies. And the music plays a big part in that, kind of setting the stage for the melodies and the melodic nature of the songs. But the vocals kind of take center stage as far as driving the melodies of the song. But like I said, it's created in such a way where the music ties very, very well hand in hand with the vocals. And that's what kind of creates this full sound, this unified sound and experience. Nothing feels detached. It's all working for the same goal. And that's always really, really important when you have a lot of things going on. So I really, really enjoyed that aspect where you can't take something away without losing the purpose of each song. Every single element, every single instrument has its role to play, and you cannot have one without the other because it's crafted in such a way where it all belongs together. So I have to really hand it to the songwriting and the arrangements as far as that goes, because everything fits like a puzzle. Each piece fits perfectly together, and as I said, you can't have one without the other. It just wouldn't be the same. So the album, for the most part, is on the brighter side, but again, you get some heavier, more melancholic, slightly gothic tones at times. But there's a brightness for the most part to it, and a lot of that has to do with the symphonic metal aspects, with the guitar and the drums and bass and all that providing kind of the backdrop. And speaking of the vocals, really, really great vocals. Really, really, really great. She does a really phenomenal job of carrying the emotional tone of each song through the verses and the chorus and elsewhere very, very well. You know exactly how each song wants you to feel, and that's always important. It conveys the mood very well, and that is in large part to the vocals, but also, like I said, I have to really hand it to the musicianship and the songwriting, because that also really plays a huge role. As I stated, you cannot have one without the other. Everything fits as it should here, and nothing seems out of place. And it really creates a wonderful melodic symphonic metal experience reminiscent of 2000 style symphonic metal. So I enjoyed that very, very much. It starts out with the track negative 273.16 degrees Celsius. Now, I'm from the US, and we just have to do things differently. So we do things in Fahrenheit, so I have no idea what temperature that is, but I imagine that's pretty darn cold. It's a great intro track, really sets the tone and the mood. There's a lot of feeling in it. And again, a lot of these songs are very emotive and have a lot of feeling in there. It's not just there, it's not just bland. You feel it, and that's what really draws you in to the album. I was looking very forward to this album, but I wasn't quite sure what to expect. But right from the rip, right from that opening track, I was sucked in, and the album kept my attention all the way through. It kept my engagement all the way through. I was invested in the sound and the style, and I was hooked. And like I said, from beginning all the way through to the end. Speaking of which, the last track, Atlas of Heart, really interesting, because I expected this album to kind of go out on a very gentle, melodic, almost melancholic, maybe piano heavy sort of track, but it leads up sort of in that fashion to this final song. But in this final song, though, is almost one of the more bombastic tracks and more gothic influenced. And it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It took me by surprise, but when I was listening, I was like, what a great way. What a great way to end the album. So, like I said, a lot of thought and care went into this, and you can tell when you're listening to it. A lot of thought and care went into each song and the arrangement of the songs throughout. And so ending in that sort of fashion, it took me by surprise, but it was a welcome surprise, and it just sends the album out in a really, really good note, and kind of just rounds it out very, very well. It makes the whole thing feel like one connected piece, and you just kind of want to jump right back in. One of my favorite riffs in the song is in the album is track 5, Island Across. Really, really sick guitar riff in there. And like I said, you will get some really cool guitar work in here, even with the symphonic elements, but everything gets highlighted in its own way, in its own time throughout the album. And that's another thing that keeps it feeling fresh and keeps you invested and interested, is because it's not one thing, the same thing after another. Different things get highlighted throughout. There's different moods and emotions throughout, and it just really, really keeps you engaged and feeling fresh. So I really, really enjoyed this album. It kind of filled a void for me of wanting something in a classic 2000s era style symphonic metal album that doesn't do anything modern or fancy. It's just at its core a symphonic metal through and through, with beautiful vocal work, wonderful symphonic elements, and again, killer guitar and drum work providing that foundation all the way through. And it just really hit the spot for me. I enjoyed it. I was looking forward to this album, but I enjoyed it even more than I thought that I would. It just is a really awesome, awesome album that I cannot recommend enough for any of you symphonic metal fans out there. I really think This will scratch the itch, and it should not go overlooked. Averlanche have created something really, really special here, and it's solid, and it feels complete. Just very, very meticulously well done. So I dig it. Now, y'all ask me, tell me one song to listen to determine if you want to hear the whole album or not. What's one song that really well represents the album as a whole? I would say go with two songs, because again, there's some diversity throughout the album. There's some different tones and moods throughout. So I would say listen to track 2, In the Theater of Fire, and I would also listen to track 8, Little Lotus, which is more on the ballad side. And between those two songs gives you a really good representation of what the entire album holds and what awaits you if you decide to start this journey, which I highly recommend. And both of those songs, I believe, were released as singles. I think I even reacted to both of those, if I'm being honest. So, yeah, those are the two songs I would say check out. But beyond that, I would say just listen to the album. Just check it out. If you're into symphonic metal or metal in general, this is a no-brainer. Like I said, I love this thing. I kept listening to it, and I'm going to keep listening to it because it just, there's something about it. There's a lot of heart in here, and like I said, it really scratched that itch for just a pure symphonic metal album. And yeah, there's not much else for me to say other than say I highly recommend this thing. Do not miss it. This bad boy drops May 12th, this Friday. Again, that's Averlanche with their new album, Arctic Atlas. Do not miss it. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of the singles that were released. How excited are you for this album to drop? And once it drops and you listen to it, come back here and let me know what you think. What you think of this bad boy? I love it, but I want to hear what y'all have to say. Anywho, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch y'all next time. Ranger.